What's up, guys? It's Isaac here. It's Backroad Harley-Davidson with possibly one of the best starter bikes, this 2009 Harley-Davidson Sportster 1200 for your pre-owned bike of the week. Now, when I say the Sportster is probably one of the best starter bikes, it's because it's in that sort of Goldilocks level of size, power, and functionability. It's big enough that you can still go on long rides with and still have a really good time on it and enjoy it for more than, just a couple months. But it's small enough that it's very easy to learn on, and it's very maneuverable, and it's very confidence building for sure. Now, a couple things with this bike here in particular. Now, with the stock motorcycle, so I'll go ahead and show you what's stock on this one. So since this is a 2009 Sportster 1200 Custom, these bikes are most commonly spotted out by a couple features. One is going to be this 4.5 gallon tank, so it's a pretty good range, especially for a Sportster, which most of them now, or at least most of the older Sportsters, only had like a 3.3 or even a 2.2 or something along that one. But this Custom actually has a 4.5 gallon tank. And a couple things with it is a center fill, and it's a little bit flatter and wider too. And the Customs, they were known for looking custom because they had a bunch of chrome already on them. So, you'll see out here in the sun, this bike is hot. Another big feature is that 21-inch front wheel on the 1200. So it's a big skinny tire, and it just looks cool. It really helps this bike stand out. It really gives it a really nice stance. Now, the aftermarket features you're going to see on this one, it does have aftermarket Willie G grips, and it does have a couple of little brackets here on both sides you'll see that are actually set up so you can go ahead and put saddlebags on this bike a little bit easier if you desire. Now, and you also see a little bit extra trim right there on that derby cover. Now, other than that, this bike's, and of course matching gas cap there too. Other than that, unless I spot something else in the next minute, it's pretty stock. So cool things with that, you'll even see you have the stock Sportster seat with that script right there on it. It is the stock exhaust, which for starting riders actually could be a nice thing, because when you're doing laps around the neighborhood, you might not upset the neighbors quite as bad when you're first starting to get that confidence where you go out onto the highway. So that's actually a pretty nice feature because this bike's not too loud. It's also fuel injected, so this one is fuel injected, so you won't have to worry about messing around with the carburetor or cold starts when you're learning to ride in the winter. It's fuel injected, so it's going to be turn key, push button, and go. So other than that, lots of nice chrome, lots of good power. We'll show you out here on the road in just a second. Give you more walk around. It does have forward controls, so you're not going to be too cramped on this bike. And very simple layout, nothing crazy to distract you too much up here. Other than that, this bike is 1200 cc's of American muscle, ready to go rock and roll down the highway. So we're gonna go show you how this bike rips around Raleigh. Try to knock this one out here quick because it's a little bit toasty, so you're going to see the beauty of a fully air-cooled motor here for you today. So that's one nice thing about this bike is it is a 1200 cc, so it's not a huge displacement, but it is fully air-cooled. There is no oil cooler on it. They actually do make aftermarket kits because Sportster's been around forever and people have been making these things rip pretty hard. Yeah, this is pretty sick. So we're going to go see how it does. So POV, actual POV, some people get upset when you use the phrase POV for not a POV video, but POV, you got a Sportster. So hard key gang, so go ahead, you'll put that in right there. Easy as that, little key there, turn on the side, go ahead and hop on this bike, show you how it rips. So let's see, and so we'll turn that, flip that switch, and throw it up in neutral. There we go. She want to think about it a second. Needs a little more jungle juice. By that I mean sit on the tender for a little bit, so she ain't. Oh yeah, there we go. Alrighty, so here we are. Bikes and gear. This is a Harley-Davidson right here. Can you do tight turns on this thing? Yeah, you can. 100%. It is a Harley-Davidson Sportster. It is made for ripping. You look at what people are doing with Sportsters these days and have been for a long time. It's fun stuff. It is fun stuff. So this is all it right here. So, we're on a 2009 Harley-Davidson Sportster 1200 Custom. I love the Customs. Ooh, I probably should put gas in this thing. But the fuel light's not on, so we're all right. Yeah. Should be enough gas to get us down the road and back. The and back is that's the tricky part. We're gonna find out if the gas light works or not then. Just kidding. Yeah, a couple cool things to note. So with this one being this year of Sportster, it does have the bar mounted speedo, so it sits right here, but it actually sits below, so it keeps a nice clear view, and then you have your indicator lights on top right there. But this is a Sportster, and these things rip, especially the 1200s. I mean, they're an absolute blast. Big 21-inch front wheel, good size, pretty standard rear tire size. These motorcycles are great bikes, and I say they're good for beginners, but really, I mean, just about anyone. If you don't want a really big bike, and you gotta really love that classic Harley-Davidson motorcycle look to really want one of these Customs. Biggest gripe with the Sportsters is they're a little bit strung out on the highway. You know, if you're doing like really long cruising and stuff like that, and you've got it wrung out in 5th gear, it does want a 6th gear. So do a little head check. There we go. Hopefully this van will move on over so that we can kind of, I think they're thinking about it. You saw that little, there it is, they're going. Which means we first of the super bikes, baby. I say it's wrung out. It's at a higher RPM and it's ready to party out on the highway still, just like anything else. I mean, it'll keep up with the other bikes for sure. You learn with it, you grow with it a little bit, you learn to rip it a little bit harder. I mean, it's a great bike that you can enjoy for a long time. And the aftermarket support is there too, so you can really get this bike dialed in exactly how you want to ride it, exactly to your style. And this one does already have the luggage racks too, so. And this lack of windshield is very, very nice on today because it is hot. Any chance of any sort of airflow I can get over is huge. I don't really have anything bad to say about these bikes. They're just so much fun. I mean, they're not that expensive. They're easy to hop on and easy to rip, and they're just so much fun. Now, why is this such a good beginner bike? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, as I was saying, this bike, at least to me, it's such a good beginner bike because it is in that sort of Goldilocks room there. So it's a bike that's small enough that, you know, you're going to be able to get confident with it. You're going to be able to learn it. You're not going to be scared to ride it. Size-wise, it's not too small, so you're not going to get that bored of it that fast. Same with the power. It's not too underpowered you're going to get bored with. But at the same time, it's not too much power where, you know, you're like, oh my gosh, this thing's so fast, this thing's terrifying. And it's not, you know, so big that it's real hard to navigate. Now, particularly, I want to say more so on the 883s. This one feels a little bit wider. It's a little bit lighter, but it's also, this bike's going to be a little bit top heavy too, especially with this tank full. With the full 4.5 gallons of gas full up on top of this thing, it's gonna make this bike feel a lot more top heavy too. So you'll have to be a little bit more deliberate with your actions. So maybe when you're first starting, maybe you don't fill it up all the way. That's something to think about. You know, maybe just put a couple gallons in, reset your speedometer, and tank up every 80 miles or something like that. So something to think about, of course, depending on if you're riding city or highway and that sort of thing. So, but you do have a trip you can reset, which there's a little button there on the back of that Speedo right there, which I'll show you here on the road in just a minute. Let's see, we can. Let's go ahead and blast it on around. This bike's so funny too, especially with the stock exhaust, because
You know, when you get on it on a lot of Harleys, you just hear that. And this one is just gone. Good to go. A little bit top heavy, but easy workarounds for that. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why on the new Nightsters they actually put that tank up underneath. So that bike is a little bit lighter than this one, but it feels much lighter too because of how that weight's distributed. So. But this one is absolutely gorgeous. It is a little heavy on the chrome side, so you gotta like chrome and classic motorcycles to like this one, which if you're looking to ride a Harley, there's a fair chance you probably there's a fair chance you might enjoy one or two of those things. So oh yeah, this bike's a ripper, so she'll let you run it on up and have a good time. So there is no tack on this bike, so at least I'm pretty sure there's not. I'll show you that stuff right now. So on the button you'll see miles on the bike, looks like just over 14,000 based on what I can see right here. So that's not bad at all. That bike's ready to get broken in. So hit that button there a couple times. Let's see, we got trip A, trip B, have our clock, and then back on the miles. So there is no tack. Closest thing to a tack you've got is going to be your ears and that exhaust note. So we ease on up a little bit. I think it's halogen bulbs most everywhere on this thing. Got somebody in the woods getting a picture of the pole. So nice on cruise. And are these bikes fun to ride? Well, if you didn't hear me the first 5 times, they are fun to ride. So, beautiful day at the lake. Perfect day to go rip a little sporty around. So, if you live around town or somewhere that's a lot of good curves to go hit and tear up, this is a good place for it. This is an excellent place where these bikes love to shine. So if you're just doing touring, a lot of really 45-minute commuting, Sportster, you might grow out of it a little bit quicker. But you're just ripping around, stuff like this, it's really don't need much bigger than this. So, and like I said, air-cooled, but small enough that it's really not going to put out that much heat. Now, of course, at this standstill, I'll probably be eating those words here in just a little bit, but let's see what we got. Yeah, now, one thing that, speaking of the new ones, with the new Nightsters, now, if you're a new rider, should you get the new Nightster or should you get one of these old Sportsters? That's a tough call. That's gonna be a very personal decision. I say very personal, you're choosing where to go to college to, or you're choosing a career path. No, this is it's not that deep. It's a motorcycle. You're picking a motorcycle to go rip. It's a huge experience, woo, and it will have some pretty significant impacts on your life down the road. You can meet a lot of people based on the motorcycle you got. But this bike, choosing this bike or the new Nightster, it's gonna be tough. The new Nightsters, they rip hard. They rip just a little bit harder than this one. This one's just more nostalgic. This one's just more nostalgic. If you like the old school things, a little bit simpler. Maybe even if you like working on your own stuff more, this one's probably going to be easier to work on too, just because there's not as much tech involved with it. But on the other hand, if all that tech appeals to you, then yeah, Nightster S all the way, baby. Nice easy rip today. Get some torque in there. Oh yeah. So there are more comfortable seats for this bike. but there aren't many cooler looking seats. Unless you can get that Sportster insignia and scribe on the back of your new seat, I'd have to keep this seat just because of the Sportster script on the back. Let everyone know it's original. It's pretty sick, pretty cool. So, you know, normally I like the mids to really be a little bit more, you know, perched on the thing, but, you know, I'm sitting a little bit more, kind of hugging the engine a little bit more. It feels good. It feels very good. So, I really want to go rip this bike up to the mountains or something and just get a very crisp reminder of just how good these bikes are up there. The suspension is a little bit soft, which is nice for this kind of city riding though. So then you're not having your shin go, or your shin go through your spine, I guess. Does this bike have cruise control? Not really, unfortunately. It's got the little wing nut here on the right side by your thumb. You know, you can tighten that up to secure the throttle if you like. But other than that, it is very basic controls. Like I said, not a lot of tech. You have a horn button on the left, your high-low beam on the left of that, or on the left side, but to the right of that. Left turn signal down there, right turn signal over there, on, off, start, and then the ignition switch, or the ignition key a little bit down on the right. So other than that, not a lot on this bike. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot to really get confused by. You know, like I said, very simple. Okay, we just hit 14,400 miles on this thing. This would be a great bike to go to school with, commute with. Now, when you are looking for a new bike, you're probably going to be looking at a lot of the specs. So you probably want to see, how much it weighs, and you want to see how tall that seat height is. I think those are two of the biggest specs. And you're also probably looking at the, motor size too. So I want to say those are probably some of the biggest three numbers that a new rider is going to be looking for. Now, if they're leaning a little bit more towards the sport bike side, then they're probably thinking, oh, well, you know, 300cc, that's about what I want. You know, that's about what I would want. It's 250, you know, maybe 400, something around there, but definitely, you know, maybe a 600, but definitely not a 1000 or something like that. You know, and then they're like, oh, a 1200 Sportster? Like, absolutely no way. Well, it's different. So with Harleys, you know, that standard kind of rule of thumb for measuring, or for understanding how much power a bike's putting out, is a little bit different for Harleys than it is for your standard sport bikes. So, and the biggest reason is the shape and the kind of how the motor is set up. So, and it's not going to be a bike, this isn't going to be a bike that you know, ring out to 200 miles an hour or something like that. So those are going to be, so the motor size, you know, that's how this one's going to be set up. So don't be intimidated by this 1200cc sport bike and think I'm crazy for suggesting that kind of bike for a new rider. Other two numbers are going to be weight. So you're going to see two numbers, wet weight and dry weight. Dry weight is typically going to be like a weight that's going to have more to do with shipping, you know, shipping and manufacturing. Kind of how much that bike is going to weigh without the necessary fluids in it to run. But the other weight is going to be called wet weight, or curb weight, or running weight, because that's how much that bike is actually going to weigh when it is loaded down with everything it needs to actually ride. You know, the right amount of oil, the right amount of gasoline, all the necessary fluids to make it run, thus called the wet weight. And of course the wet weight's going to be a little bit higher, but that's going to be more the number that's you're going to want to check out. Next thing is going to be seat height. So you're going to see two seat heights sometimes. One's going to be laden seat height, and the other's going to be unladen seat height. So this one's about a 28-inch unladen seat height, but then it goes down to 26.5-inch laden seat height, or weighted. So that's what the seat height actually is when I sit on it, depending on how many trips to Cookout I've made. but it's going to be roughly 26.5 inch seat height. So those are also going to be two numbers to check out. It's going to be what that seat height is with the rider actually on it or not on it. So two things to keep in mind there for you. But this is your 2009 Harley-Davidson Sportster 1200. So great bike for beginners, great bike for anybody that wants to go ride them. That was a pretty quick little run here for you. So thank you guys for riding along with us today. And if you want to know more about this bike or have other questions about new bikes for beginners or pre-owned bikes for beginners or stuff like that, then be sure to come by, see us, talk to us, and we'll help you get on the right track. So in the meantime, ride safe, and we hope to see you soon.